So the literature review, it's such a tiring and long process, isn't it? I mean, if there's one thing that most of the PhD students and researchers that come to us for help at Academic English Now complain about, it's usually the literature review process. How to find the right text and how to read them. I mean, the hundreds of texts, how do I extract all that information? How do I organize it into my notes? And then more importantly, how do I actually use those notes to write my literature review, be it in a paper or as a chapter or as a systematic literature review? And how do I do all that without spending months and months just reading and not actually writing anything? Because at the end of the day, if you want to finish your PhD or you want to publish papers in top journals, you've got to write. You can't just be reading stuff, even though there's a lot to be read. So that's why in this video, I want to show you how to automate your literature review process with 3 AI tools that are completely free to start right now. If you're new here, my name is Marek Kiczkowiak and I run Academic English Now, where we help PhD students and researchers write and publish papers in top Scopus Index journals. And in this video, we're going to be talking about automating almost completely your literature review, be it for a PhD chapter or for a paper, using 3 AI tools. These tools are Consensus, SciSpace, and Jenni AI. And I'll put the links to each of those tools in the description down below. They're completely free tools to start with. Some features are paid, like with most tools, but even if you were to buy paid plans on all 3, which probably isn't necessary to start with, it would still cost you less than going out for dinner once in a week. So first of all, the first really important step in a literature review is getting texts that you're going to read and getting them in an efficient manner and being able to immediately see which texts are relevant and which texts are not relevant for you to read. I see PhD students and researchers get bogged down and inundated by those hundreds and hundreds of papers that they find, and they don't really have a system or a process that allows them to understand which papers they should read and which papers they should not read. So for that, we're going to use 2 tools. We're going to use Consensus, and then I'm going to show you how to combine it with SciSpace. So there's not going to be a full review of all the features of Consensus or any of the other AI tools. I've got other videos on the channel where I do that, but it's going to focus specifically on how to get relevant literature with Consensus, right? So what we're going to do is just type in the question that you wanna ask right here, okay? And try to make that question as specific as possible. It can be a yes or no question, like, can humans overcome cognitive bias? It can be a more open-ended question, how does political labeling affect online communication, right? So you can also ask about relationship between things, the cause and effect, or as I said, a simple yes or no questions, right? So let's do this one that interests me. Can humans overcome cognitive bias? So what you're going to get here straight away is a summary of all these papers, right? It's based on 5 papers, so that's a limitation. Important to pay attention to that because obviously it doesn't give you a full summary of all the research that's out there, but we're going to get to that. But it gives you a really nice summary to really see kind of what's the consensus of research on that particular issue, right? And then it gives you a more detailed answer right here as well. And then we can get in, you can straight away copy that answer, okay? You can also export it as a CSV file. And then we get into the individual papers as well, which we're going to get into reading those papers in just a second. But what I really like about Consensus, what makes it stand apart from your traditional search engines, is that straight away in here you will get a summary of the insights of that paper. And I think this is really, really good. You also can get the study snapshots in here, which gives you the outcomes, the methods that were used, and so on. And what you also get on some papers is whether it is highly cited or not. And I think this is really important because obviously, if a paper is highly cited, then you can, it increases its credibility. That's probably a very important paper for you to read. So what you can then do, of course, is to click on that paper, save it to your library. But another really good feature worth pointing out is this ranking. So it tells you straight away which journal it was published in, what's the ranking of that journal. Okay, so I think this is really good because it allows you to quickly identify the papers that you should be reading and the papers that you should not be reading based on the snapshots here. And also this allows you to very quickly, rather than get bogged down in details and reading 50 papers to try and extract information from them, you can very quickly get an overview and an idea of what should be included in your literature review because you get a summary of all the research. Okay, and this nicely connects with SciSpace, which is the other tool that we're going to be using. So you can actually click here and just compare the results that we got here with the results that SciSpace is going to give us. And again, I'm going to put the link to SciSpace right below. It's a free tool as well to start with. If you're going to be using a lot of AI summaries and a lot of chatting with the PDFs, you will need a paid plan. And if you use Academic English Now coupon, you can get an additional 40% off on that paid plan. But again, in here, if we search for that same question, we're going to get a summary with references. So that's an important thing to point out. And I think a really cool thing that you get references to each individual point in the summary, which helps us to understand in more depth that answer. And you can also look up those papers and read them, which you should. Okay, it's got a slightly different layout. I must say, I think I prefer SciSpace here because it gives us the key insights for each of the papers in here, but then we can also customize the sections in here. So what I like to do is, depending on my purpose with the reading, which is important, is to add additional sections, like for example, practical implications, right? And then it will list those whenever the paper has them. Then in here, you could also load more papers. So it gives you, the summary is just based on 5 papers, but you can keep on loading more papers and then filter them, obviously, by year, publication type, keywords, specific journals that you want to be looking at, right? And also either the relevance or citation count or newest, oldest first. But I think this is fantastic because now literally what you could do with it, you already have the key insights from that paper. So obviously you're going to go and read it to check to verify whether this is accurate, but you already have that. So let's say, you're interested in the limitations of previous studies. Well, you've got them here in bullet points, right? So you could copy and paste them or just export this as a CSV Excel file and analyze them and see kind of what main limitations most papers have. I think this is fantastic because it's going to save you so much time when you're doing the literature review later. And then when you click on individual texts, and the same happens here when I'll open the highly cited text, what we're going to get straight away is the citations and references. And this is great for what is often referred to as snowballing, right? So you found 10 papers and then you look at their references to find more relevant papers. And I think a huge advantage of a tool like Consensus is that it gives you a 1-sentence key insight from that paper. So this allows you to judge immediately, is that paper relevant to my literature review? Should I read it or not? If it is, cool, you hit save and then you can read it. And the same goes for study snapshots in here as well. It doesn't pull them up for every paper, but often it does, right? And then you also get citations. So meaning, which other papers are citing this paper. And this is great as well, because if you're reading, a very highly cited paper, you're going to get a lot of additional references from it that might be relevant. And again, otherwise, you'd have to kind of search for each of those papers, open it, read the abstract, probably read, the introduction to see if it's relevant. In here, you just get a 1-sentence snapshot, right? And that allows you to judge whether that paper is relevant, should you read it or not. And one last thing that I want to mention that will help you to really automate your literature review search is the save search function. That is both here and in here as well. You can hit save and save that search both in SciSpace and Consensus. What this does is that you will have all the questions that you've asked SciSpace or Consensus, and you can always come back to that search, and with one click of a button you're going to get all those papers again. So gone are the days where you kind of have to remember, oh my god, what keywords did I use and how did I search it? What were the search criteria? Did I sort it by relevance? Did I limit it to certain types of papers? Forget about it. You just click save and you've got all your searches saved with the search criteria and any sort of inclusion and exclusion criteria, which I think is fantastic. Right, so we've got our text, and I talked about getting other relevant papers for that, and that's snowballing. So what you can also do here when you open a text in SciSpace, you're going to get related papers, which is pretty cool as well. And what I like about SciSpace here is that it's all in one interface. So again, you don't have to kind of search for that paper, open it in the journal, and then log in and then download it in a PDF. It's all here for you, right? So you can see the related papers and then click on them and open them, get a snapshot, key insights of that paper, and see if it's relevant. If it is relevant, you can hit go to paper and start reading it yourself, right? So that's how you can automate your search and get more papers to make sure that you're not missing any literature. Now, of course, kind of the second step is to read the papers and read them effectively, right? You don't want to be in a situation where you're spending days reading one paper, okay? Now, what you can do, as you've seen already here, is that SciSpace will give you summaries, bullet point summaries of each specific section, right? Just like this. And you can add sections if you want in here as well. So you could add a section called, research aim, for example, if that's something that you wanna find out. So rather than have to kind of like go to the paper, open it, scroll and try to find the research aim or whatever it is that you're looking for, you just get it here straight away. Look, I'm not saying you should not read the paper. You definitely should. You should verify all this information, but I think it really speeds up the process. So you get these lovely bullet point summaries. Now, what you can also do is it has this feature called Ask Copilot. And this will basically allow you to chat with the document. And this is most accurate when SciSpace actually has access to the full document, right? So it suggests questions in here. Many of these questions are actually very interesting questions, like unexpected or surprising results. You can ask that question and then SciSpace will give you the answer in here. You can always toggle between high quality or standard answers. High quality answers, are the sort of most capable answers based on a better AI model, and they're available on the paid plan. And you can get 40% discount on the paid plan with Academic English Now code, right? So you get the answers in here. And what is really cool is that, you can just save to notebook straight away in here. So you just click here and then, you could choose where you want to save it in your existing notebook or somewhere else, right? And then you can also ask follow-up questions. So think of it as just having a really knowledgeable colleague next to you who has read all these papers and has perfect memory and can answer any questions that you have and recall what's written in the paper. That's basically how it works, right? So imagine how much time this is actually going to save you. And the same reading feature is available when you're viewing a single paper, right? You have this Ask Copilot here, and you have typical questions that you can ask Copilot, right? What you can also do, which I think is even better, is go to Copilot, right? So you click on Copilot or you go to your library, okay? And you upload a PDF in here. I'm just gonna choose one PDF that's already been uploaded. And then you open it here, all right? And then you can start chatting with this PDF. So we've already gone through, like typical questions that you can ask this paper, and Copilot will give you the answers. So you could just ask it whatever you want, like what are the limitations of this research, for example, right? And then it will give you the answers in just a few seconds. Right? And you get answers in here, which I think is beautiful. And then it suggests follow-up questions that you could ask to dive deeper into that particular issue. But there's more to that. SciSpace can do a lot more for you. So for example, you could select the text, right? Just gonna select the text here. And first of all, you could ask SciSpace to explain this text. Okay, so imagine like you're reading something that is challenging. You don't really understand what the researchers mean, but you select that text and then AI will explain it to you in simple layman terms that you can actually understand. So this is great. So no longer feeling stuck, having to translate stuff into your first language, that kind of thing, right? What you can also do is, if we select the text again, so let me just select something in here. What you can also do is summarize. So this is really good if you select a longer text. So imagine like, you've got like 5 pages of literature review and you want a summary of that. Well, you click on summarize and SciSpace is going to give you a really nice summary. Okay. What I really like as well is get related papers. Okay. So we select a piece of writing from the text, and then we click on get related papers, and then it's going to list those in here. Again, those papers are actually real papers. They're not made up, not like ChatGPT that just kind of hallucinates. You can actually click on those papers and open them in here, right? And actually read those papers. So they actually exist. They have a DOI and everything, and you can go and read that paper. Another cool feature that I want to point out to you is this explain math and table. So if you're in a very technical field where there are a lot of equations, maybe there are tables with a lot of data, you can click here, explain the math and table, and then select whichever table or whichever equations you want to be explained, and then Copilot will just tell you what these equations mean, or what's in the table, and we'll give you a nice bullet point summary laid out in simple terms that you can actually understand. And of course, as I mentioned before, this is all savable to your notebook. So you no longer have to kind of switch between different windows. You can just like with one click save the whole thing to your notebook and very easily ask follow-up questions to dive deeper into a particular issue. So that's really how you automate reading your literature review and how you really speed it up. Now, the third piece of the puzzle is, of course, structuring your literature review and then writing your literature review. So while Copilot does have the SciSpace does have the notebook feature, I don't think it's particularly good for writing. It does have the AI writer in here, but it's not really a very good writing tool. So I wouldn't recommend it now until they actually improve it. SciSpace excels in what it was designed for, which is, literature review search and helping you read papers faster. Now, what tool excels at writing is Jenni. And again, this is not going to be a full tutorial of how to use Jenni for different writing purposes. I've got another video where I do that. I'm just going to show you how to use it to automate your literature review. So you'll have to create your free account at Jenni. Again, as with most of these tools, if you're planning to use it on a regular basis, you will have to go on the paid plans. However, if you're just planning to experiment with it, try it out, then the free plan is just as good. Okay, so what you would need to do is just start a new document. Okay, so you just click here, new document, And you want to describe the document in as much detail as possible so that you're writing, for example, a literature review chapter. How long should it be? What is the aim? What are some of the main topics that you want to be included in that chapter? So the more detail you provide, the better structure Jenni AI is going to give you. And you definitely want to hit outline builder in here to create document headings, because the problem that a lot of researchers and PhD students face is structuring your literature review. You've read all tons of papers, but how do you actually organize them to something coherent? Well, Jenni will do that for you really quickly, provided you give it a good description of what you're doing. Mind you, it doesn't have to be an essay. It's just like 4 or 5 sentences will be enough, okay? So I've got a document already that's a literature review chapter, okay? And this is the sort of outline that it can produce. And this is pretty accurate. Is it 100% accurate? Of course not, right? Because it doesn't know all the papers that you've read, but it's a fantastic start. So no longer do you have to be, staring at a blank piece of paper at your screen, not knowing how to start. Now, what are we going to do next? Because obviously this isn't enough, right? So you've got this first topic, okay, but what else should I write about, okay? On this topic? Well, what are the sort of subtopics that I need to cover here? Well, we can chat with Jenni and just ask Jenni about it. So it's got this really good AI assistant in here. So what we can do is just ask Jenni, well, what are the main research? Oh, first of all, what is the definition of native speakerism, right? Since this is our main topic, and it's the first section, we probably do need a definition of this topic, right? So Jenni is going to give us an answer in here, and I like that it's already plugging in some references in here, right? I should mention that it's got a library, and you can just upload all your text in here to your library. I'll just show you real quick. Right, so I had to close the AI chat. I've already uploaded sources, but you can just go here and upload sources. You can also import them from Zotero through BibTeX. If you're interested in connecting Jenni and Zotero, I've got another video on doing that. But that's really useful because then Jenni can scan these texts, read them, and refer to them in her answers. Let's call Jenni a she. Okay, so now what you could do is just click add to document. You don't even have to copy it, right? So you're just gonna add it to the document. Now, a very important word of warning. You cannot just copy and paste it and put it in your literature review chapter or your paper, because it's going to get flagged as AI generated content. What you will need to do is paraphrase it. But Jenni AI can just automate the structuring process, so you're no longer feeling stuck, like you don't know what you should be writing about. Okay, because we have the broad topics, right, that Jenni laid out for us in here. Okay, and now we're going to get specific topics. So we've got a definition of the key term, right, and then we can ask Jenni more specific questions. So, for example, what are the key research areas related to native speakerism, right? So you see, I just take the main topic, right? The ideology of native speakerism, and then I ask, well, what would be the specific subtopics related to it, right? And then Jenni AI gives me an answer in here, right? Beautiful. I can just now take this and I can just add it to document, okay? And then I'll have this, and then obviously what I can do then is copy this, okay? Go to consensus, right? Or go to SciSpace, whichever tool you prefer. And then right? And then I ask a question and start getting references for it, okay? So that I can read more about this specific topic. But the great thing is that you already have the structure in place, okay? And you can do that basically for any topic. In here, you could ask Jenni to, to provide you like a historical overview. What are some of the historical periods you should review in terms of, English language teaching in Poland, and so on. Now, again, a word of warning, I'm not saying that you should copy and paste all this and put it in your text. Please don't do that. That's not the purpose. Be very careful with any AI generated content because it can get flagged as plagiarism. But what this process helps you to do is to get unstuck, to help you to structure your literature review, the broad topics, but also individual topics, and get answers to your questions quickly so that you can start writing your literature review faster. So this is how we automate the literature review process. Long gone are the days where you have to spend months and months plowing through papers. You can do so much more quickly with the help of Consensus, SciSpace, and Jenni AI, and have a good structure and a detailed structure of your literature review with references, in just days, not months. Now, if you want our help to write and publish papers regularly in top journals in your field, then schedule a free one-to-one consultation. We're going to get on a personalized call with you, identify the problems that you're having, clarify your goals, and develop a personalized plan that will help you to achieve those goals fast. So if you're interested in doing that and working with us, then the link to book that free one-to-one consultation is right below this video.